All right, here we go. You're watching the 49ers Report live here on Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. We are locked and loaded with another jam-packed show coming your way on both YouTube as well as Rumble. And today's show presented to you by the fine folks at Manscaped. Warm weather is here. Summer is right around the corner. We're going to be spending a lot of time outside by the pool. Don't be that hairy dude that's not desirable. For all the lovely ladies out there, get chopped up, get cleaned up with the fine folks at Manscaped, and in the process, you get 20% off and free shipping by using that link at the bottom of your screen, manscaped.com/49ers. Enter the promo code 49ers. That link available for you in the comment section as well as the description so that you can get your hands on the best men's grooming tools on the market today. We're going to start the official show in about 10 minutes, but right now, people are getting that notification. They're piling into the show, and I want to use this as an opportunity, like we always do, to interact with the faithful, interact with the gang, and interact with the Niner Empire. So if you're red and gold till you're dead and cold, 6 feet under, I want you to type FTTB in the comment section right now, and I'll give all of you shout-outs. FTTB standing for Faithful to the Bay. Trey Day coming in from Even Steven. Aaron Magana, 49ers for life. BK from the Bay, LFG, FTTB from BK, Even Stevens following suit. So is James Kramer. Aaron Magana's watching from California. Samuel, Vortex Sewer, What Noodle 187, George, Keith Carter, Aaron, Lavelle, James, John. Does Javon Kinlaw use Manscaped, though? Yes, because Manscaped, the presenting men's grooming product sponsor of the San Francisco 49ers. Nicholas Linton, faithful to the Bay. Jamie Bryant, faithful to the Bay. Johnny Royale is right there as well. Bob Bedwell, faithful to the Bay. Johnny, OZ, Samuel, Kevin, appreciate all of you for rocking and rolling with us here on the 49ers Report. Samuel shouting out his town. He is watching from Delaware. Speaking of that, if you want to be like him, let us know where you're watching from. We are emanating live from our Chat Sports studios in Dallas, Texas. I, of course, am Jay Senior with producer Coop. Sam Brown is working the community. Where are you watching from? I take a look at all the analytics, and I see that people are tuned in from all across the world. So let me know where you're watching from. OZ is in Seattle. Alabama from Tarvarius. Watching from Connecticut from Matt. Atlanta from James. Jason, faithful to the Bay. Jamie Bryant is in Virginia. Colorado from Vortex. Southern Oregon repping from James. California from Chunky. North Carolina from Keith. Huntington Beach from Andrew. Little Rock, Arkansas, BK. Dave Rogers tuned in from the UK, so we got some international folks here. Unfortunately, Pittsburgh from Brian. I've been to Pittsburgh many times. I like Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's a fun city. What do you mean, unfortunately? Faithful from Dallas, from FOTY. That's where we're from. You already know. Bay Area, California from Jonathan. St. Louis from Bob. Georgia from Johnny. And New Jersey from Kenneth. So obviously 49ers Twitter the last couple of days has been on fire. After the Grant Cohn, Javon Kinlaw beef, Kinlaw had approached Grant at 49ers OTAs. He knocked the hat off of his head. Then when Grant went live on his YouTube channel, Javon tuned in, he called in, and he went ballistic. He went nuts. He lost his cool. And then yesterday, according to Grant, both of them met up in John Lynch's office, and they shook hands and I guess supposedly ended their beef. That according to Grant, but Javon posted on his Instagram story, the beef has not been settled. So whose side are you on? I think both people are to blame here. Grant often plays the role of antagonist, and Javon did not represent himself or the 49ers well, and he kind of lost his cool a little bit, and it wasn't really a good look. So whose side are you on? GC for Cohn, JK for Kinlaw? Let me know in the comment section right now. CSL in the casino, he's saying Team Kinlaw. What a bunch of babies from Matt. GC from Greg. Whose side are you on? Let me know. Both are at fault from James. Javon stepped over the line from BK. Neither from George. Vortex. Javon Kinlaw. Mario Kinlaw. That one guy. Grant. Neither for the team from Jamie. Joe is going with Grant. JK all day from Therese. Both are at fault, but Grant ultimately from John. Cohn is a punk from Julian. And look, the guy's done a great job, a masterful job of growing his YouTube channel, but you got to be able to take the heat if you give it out. And look, some may make the argument that he's been able to take the heat over the last couple of days because the heat has been thrown his way. Pat McAfee was going in on him during the Pat McAfee show. Grant from David, Javon Kinlaw from Leonardo, Nicholas, I'm on the Niner gang side. Nelson, 2 wrongs don't make a right. CSL in the casino, not part of the faithful. Appreciate all of your responses. And like I said, Grant, Javon, they're good at their respective crafts. We're going to be going live on Call-In right after our YouTube and Rumble show wraps up. If you haven't joined us on Call-In, you're certainly missing out. It's a live interactive podcast where I'm able to take all of your calls, and you can call in like a sports talk radio show. So you see that link at the bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/49ers call-in. Plug that in. Download the app, and right after our live show wraps up, we're going live for a live podcast where I will take all of your calls. I want to hear from everybody, and I want to see everybody joining us on Call-In. It's like Twitter Spaces, but even better. Chatsports.com/49ers call-in, and the link for the show is also being peppered into the comment section right now. Here's what we have coming up on today's live show. Going to get into the latest 49ers news and rumors. A lot of Niners coming to the defense of Javon Kinlaw. Brian Griese really excited about the development of Trey Lance. And Pro Football Talk reporting Alex Mack probably going to retire. And if that's the case, it's a big hit on this 49ers roster. We'll cover all of that. I'll break down 5 breakout candidates, guys who I think are going to have masterful 2022 campaigns, and we're going to do 1 mailbag today, so make sure you get your questions in starting right now. Use the hashtag 49ers, better yet, super chat us to get your questions answered on the show. If you're ready to start today's live broadcast, to officially start the show, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. 120 people watching live right now, only 25 likes. We need 50 likes before we get this show started. I know the faithful always shows up. You always show out. You always show the support. Hit that thumbs up icon and like the video if you're ready to start today's show. We're already up to 32 likes. We need 18 more to get to 50, and just keep that number increasing. Like the video if you're ready to get today's show underway, because there's so much to talk about. There's so much to cover, and there's so much to get into. And as I mentioned, after our YouTube and Rumble show, we will be live on Call-In for a live podcast where I will be taking all of your calls, and you can ask me anything via the phone line. 2 more likes away from 50. Once we get the 50 likes, we will officially start today's show. More people continue to pile in after getting that notification. I see Byron McCants, Kenneth Barrett, Sugarnaut, CSL in the casino, Jamie Bryant, Wet Noodle 187, James Kramer, all in the chat right now. We surpassed 50 likes. That doesn't mean you stop. Continue to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. And with that, let's start today's show. Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Sr. Appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day. We're diving into the latest 49ers news and rumors, and here's what we have coming your way on today's show. Brian Griese was asked about the development of Trey Lance and if he's excited to work with him, going from the broadcast booth to the sideline to be the quarterback's coach in Kyle Shanahan's offense. We'll get to what he said about the future franchise quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. Pro Football Talk and Mike Florio saying that Alex Mack probably going to retire, and if that's the case, that's a big void to fill on this 49ers roster, considering the importance of that center position. And players are coming to the defense of Javon Kinlaw following the Grant Cohn and Javon Kinlaw beef. Pat McAfee show also talking about everything that transpired on YouTube a couple days ago. We'll get you caught up on all of the latest. We start off with what Brian Griese had to say about Trey Lance. He was asked about his development and if he's excited to work with him. He was also asked about Jimmy Garoppolo and said he has not spoken with Jimmy Garoppolo the entire offseason, which came as a little bit of a surprise to me, as Garoppolo has not communicated with Kyle Shanahan. He hasn't talked to George Kittle, and he hasn't talked to his current quarterback's coach coach in Brian Griese, but Griese focusing on the guys who are partaking in OTAs, and said this about Trey area. With respect to Trey Lance in particular, meeting him and getting to know him over the last couple of months, he is an outstanding young man in so many ways. I'm excited to continue to get to know him both on and off the field. I'm excited that he comes to work every day and he's humble and he wants to get better. Now, we've talked a lot about Trey Lance, his development, and the fact that he has untapped potential, and he really is a dual threat quarterback with so much ability. So you're looking at him right now partaking in OTAs, where he's looked really good all throughout the week, displaying changes in his mechanics as the arm motion is a little less loopy and more tight, and he's been a little bit more accurate because of that. So if you're excited about Trey Lance and this picture on your screen right now, the face, the future, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. From the quarterback to the man who may or may not be handing the football off to Trey Lance and snapping it to him in Alex Mack. We still don't know if he's going to be the center for the 49ers in 2022, and the 49ers don't know if he's going to be on this roster. Honestly, at this point, does Alex Mack even know if he's going to return to this team here this upcoming season? So he inked a 3-year deal before 2021. He's still undecided on his return. He got married during the offseason in Ireland, where a couple of teammates were able to attend his wedding, and they weren't able to unveil his plans. If Alex Mack were to retire, he would owe the 49ers a little bit of money, $2.45 million because of his signing bonus. And we're talking about a guy who's been one of the best centers in the National Football League for a decade plus and has rarely missed any games throughout his NFL career with the Cleveland Browns, where he was with Kyle Shanahan back in the day, back when Shanahan was a babyface killer, with the Atlanta Falcons, and now with the San Francisco 49ers. Alex Mack was so good that he earned accolades of being on the 2010s All-Decade team and is a 7-time Pro Bowler. So one of the best centers that we've seen in recent memory and one of the best centers of this century. Now, when Kyle Shanahan was asked about Alex Mack a couple weeks ago, he said this: I've talked to him here and there. I've got a good idea. I've been in touch with him throughout the offseason, through his wedding, through his honeymoon. He's in some other country right now, but I've got a pretty good idea of what he's doing. I'm going to leave that up to Alex, but I've got a pretty good idea. I think you guys do too. Kyle, I honestly have absolutely no clue what Alex Mack is going to do. But as we're about to show you here coming around the corner, I think it's imperative for him to return, because without him, the 49ers did not sign a center in free agency. They didn't address center in the NFL draft, and there are multiple question marks along that offensive line. Now, if Alex Mack retires, if any breaking news happens, if there's a juicy rumor out there on the Niners, you know who has you covered? Your boy right here and the 49ers Report. So make sure you subscribe, as we're a little more than 500 people away from reaching an incredible milestone here on the channel of 60,000 subscribers. If you want videos every single day that are free, just hit that red subscribe button down below. Now, we're talking about Alex Mack because Pro Football Talk reported that it's most likely that Alex Mack is going to call it quits. They reported this on Thursday. It appears that with 2 years remaining on the deal, Mack is ready to walk away from the game. The 49ers have tiptoed around Mack's status. Recent remarks from Coach Kyle Shanahan make it more clear than ever that the team does not expect Mack to return. However, the team continues to defer to Mack when it comes to making that decision public. And of course, that's the right move, right? You don't want to force him into a situation where he has to make a choice tomorrow. This is a guy who's one of the best centers that we've seen in recent modern NFL history, and if he's a little bit unsure as to what he wants to do, he has earned the right to take his time in making that decision. But if the 49ers knew that Alex Mack was going to retire and he wasn't going to play any longer, why didn't they address center in the NFL draft? Why didn't they address center in free agency? There's a big hole at that center spot, as evidenced by the first-string offensive line unit that we've seen take the field during OTAs. Your starting offensive line across the board, and keep in mind Trent Williams not partaking in organized team activities. Mike McGlinchey is coming off that torn right quad. and Daniel Brunskill is dealing with knee tendonitis. But if this is your first-string offensive line during the heat of an NFL season or even during an NFL game, it's a little bit problematic. Across the board, you're looking at Colton McKivitz, Aaron Banks, the rookie second-round pick out of Notre Dame from last year who struggled at times during his rookie campaign. Jake Brendel would be the center replacement for Alex Mack if he doesn't come back. Jalen Moore, the other rookie from last year who actually played well in moments at right guard, and then Justin School, who's coming off an injury from last year as the starting right tackle and the replacement for Mike McGlinchey. This offensive line, it certainly is not ideal, especially when you're trotting out a quarterback in Trey Lance who's young, inexperienced, who needs fine-tuning. He's a little bit grainy, only started 2 games last year, and you need to protect him because if you don't, that could really ruin his confidence. Now, we're just getting started on today's show because coming up right around the corner, after this Javon Kinlaw, Grant Cohn beef, players came to the defense of Javon Kinlaw. We'll get to what they said coming up here in just a few moments, but if you're watching us live right now, we're going to be going live right after our live show on Call-In, and we're going to be going live once a week moving forward on the Call-In app, which is an audio social podcasting app that really does prioritize audience engagement. It's like Twitter Spaces, but even better. We're going to be doing weekly live shows. I did one over the weekend from a bachelor party in Arizona where I didn't see a single Arizona Cardinals fan, and you have an opportunity to actually call into the show, interact with me, spit your hottest 49ers take, or just ask me any question that you want. So you see that link on your screen right now, chatsports.com/49ers call-in. Use that, download the app, make a profile. That way you can join us live on our podcast on Call-In. Now we pivot to the biggest discussion in 49ers land over the last couple of days, which has taken over Twitter, it's taken over the internet, and it's taken over every single 49ers blog out there. That is the back and forth between Grant Cohn, media personality, and Javon Kinlaw, the former first-round pick and defensive tackle for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, according to Grant Cohn, they met in John Lynch's office, and according to Cohn, John Lynch had arranged that meeting, and they squashed their beef. Now, that was according to Grant Cohn, not according to Javon Kinlaw, because he posted on his Instagram story, "Grant, I shook your hand for my organization. Nowhere was anything squashed, and you know that. Stop capping, dog." So according to Grant, the beef is squashed. According to Javon Kinlaw, he ain't moving on, and no beef has been squashed. Now, players in the aftermath of this situation in which Javon Kinlaw lost his cool, he went ballistic and went off on Grant Cohn, have come to the defense of Javon Kinlaw. We're going to run through just a couple of replies, and this is something that is featured in the New York Post. It's been talked about on Outkick by Clay Travis. It's even been talked about on the Pat McAfee show, who is throwing some haymakers toward Grant Cohn. So too have some players on the 49ers roster, like George Kittle. He said this: "It's crazy to me that someone who was allowed into our building has the mindset and the goal to antagonize and irritate players with their end game of being this. I thought players and reporters were supposed to work together. Being in this building, let alone in this league, is an opportunity. It is not a right. People get really comfortable typing behind a screen," and then George Kittle said a lot more on his Instagram story. And we also know that Eric Armstead has taken issue with what Grant Cohn has said in the past. He basically said the same thing that George Kittle said, very surprised that Grant is allowed back into the building. Now, for anybody saying that Cohn should have his media pass revoked or he shouldn't be allowed back in the building, I think that's way too sensitive. I mean, he is entitled to his own opinions, and he is an opinionist in addition to being a journalist and a media member. But Deebo Samuel did block Grant Cohn back a couple weeks ago, and he also put Eric Armstead's quote on his Instagram story saying, "Nah, for real, I've been had to block Grant. He just does the most for real." As for Tabor Pepper, when the long snapper is getting involved, you know it's really real. So basically, he posted a quote from Grant, and I'm not sure if Grant was joking about the fact of maybe trying to get fined if Javon Kinlaw were to hit him. That's not something I personally would have said. If the beef happened, then the beef happened. I'm not trying to play victim by any means, but Tabor Pepper did say, "The faithful can arrange an early retirement if the fan base boycotts your low-effort shit posting that you call journalism, because Grant did threaten to retire, said that he could retire if Javon Kinlaw were to get physical with him. And honestly, if there was a fight, I'm not taking many people in the NFL ahead of Javon Kinlaw, let alone a media member, because that dude, he is a straight-up load. Brandon Aiyuk also voicing his opinions on the subject matter. If you're going to say something about somebody, stand on that ish. Don't backpedal and start playing victim. Jaquiski Tart, the former Niner who may become another Niner if he were to sign in free agency. LMFAO, crazy how players become the bad guy for standing up for themselves. Media and social media has a huge influence on players' narratives, allowing anyone to speak on your name with no accountability for what they say. Now, I voiced my opinions on this back yesterday. I said both people are to blame, and Grant isn't for everybody. He's an antagonist. He has some opinions, and some of those opinions will remind you a lot of what Skip Bayless says on the air sometimes. You're like, what? He really said that? And he has not shied away from taking punches and uppercuts on players and being very critical of their performances. But if you say those things, you got to receive the backlash, and Javon Kinlaw gave him the backlash. He gave him the heat. And did Kinlaw go a little bit too far? Was he a little bit too emotional for my liking? Yeah, a little bit. But can you understand where Javon Kinlaw's coming from? This dude was homeless at one point in his life. He goes to South Carolina, where he puts together a really impressive career. He's a first-round pick for San Francisco, coming off a Super Bowl year, and he hasn't been able to reach those expectations of being that first-round pick because he's been injured the last couple of years, and I'm sure that he wants nothing more than to prove to everybody out there that he doesn't suck, that he is a good football player, that he was worthy of that first-round selection. He just needs to be able to stay healthy in order to prove that, and he hasn't up to this point. I would be frustrated too. So we asked this question yesterday. I'm going to ask it again. Whose side are you on now that you see a lot of 49ers players coming to the defense of Javon Kinlaw and John Lynch setting up a meeting between these two guys? Is it GC for Grant Cohn, JK for Javon Kinlaw? I'm going to continue to run my YouTube channel, and I greatly appreciate all of the support that you give me right here on the 49ers Report. You can continue for us to give you great opinions, great content, and free daily videos covering the latest 49ers news and rumors right here on the channel. And subscribe as we are approaching 60,000 subscribers. All right, we'll give you some shout-outs here. JK from Jay, Aloha from Stanley, watching from Hawaii. He's going JK as well. Stephen JK, Kenneth Barrett JK, the Spy Gang Kids JK, V, typing a GC, David Ismail, Javon Kinlaw, Maria and Maya going JK as well. So too is Jerome Davis, Mark Frucci, Kinlaw, Wet Noodle 187, Kinlaw. BK from the Bay, he's going both. Coming up next on the show, we're going to take a look at 5 breakout candidates who I think are going to play really well for the 49ers here in 2022. Pone 1. I'm picking Chase Sr., my guy. I appreciate that. As soon as producer Coop tells me that we're ready to go, we will break down these 5 breakout candidates live here on the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. On the other side of that, make sure you get your questions in for a mailbag, hashtag 49ers or Super Chat for your questions to be answered right here live on the show. Right now, let's take a look at these 5 breakout candidates for the San Francisco 49ers. Coming up on the 49ers Report by Chat Sports, we're going to take a look at 5 breakout candidates who really could burst onto the scene and have masterful seasons for the Niners here this upcoming season. But first, want to give a shout out to Manscaped. Warm weather is here. Summer is right around the corner. A lot of us are spending time outside by the pool. Don't be that guy who the ladies stay away from because you're way too hairy. Trim your nether region. Stay clean down below the belt thanks to our friends at Manscaped, the provider for the best men's grooming product tools. And right now, if you're watching the 49ers Report, a custom link available for you. If you use that link at the bottom of your screen, manscaped.com/49ers, enter the promo code 49ers for 20% off and free shipping. I use these products on a weekly basis because I'm not that hairy, but when I do, I take care of it with Manscaped. On today's show, I have cooked up a list of 5 49ers who I think are guaranteed to break out in 2022. Now, I'm putting this out in the public sphere. The receipts are there. I'm very confident that these 5 49ers are going to break out. If you're with me, let me know in the comment section right now. Breakout candidate number 1. I'm going with Brandon Aiyuk. I think Trey Lance is going to be able to bring the best out of Aiyuk going into a very pivotal year for him as he enters year 3 as a former first-round pick. Now, last year in 2021, it was a tale of two halves for Brandon Aiyuk. In the first 6 games, he wasn't getting targeted. He was in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse. A lot of people had questioned his effort on the practice field, and that translated onto the game field. First 6 games, he only had 16 targets as the number 2 wide receiver on this team behind Deebo Samuel, 9 catches in 6 games for only 96 yards, average yards per catch at 10.5, and only 1 touchdown. But starting with that Chicago Bears game, which was an epic back-and-forth matchup in which the 49ers were able to come out victorious and turn their season around, Aiyuk from that point on proved to be one of the more dangerous wide receivers in the NFC. Last 11 games, his targets up to 68, 47 catches, 730 yards. He was a much more explosive player, average yards per catch at 15.5 and 4 touchdowns, including that game winner late in the year against the Cincinnati Bengals in overtime. Now, Aiyuk has a little bit of pressure on him going into year 3. There's pressure on him to produce, especially with Trey Lance as the starting quarterback, who I think is going to be able to unlock a different dimension in Aiyuk's game as a vertical threat. Aiyuk said this: I think everybody has personal goals that they want to achieve. I know that comes alongside with everything we want to do as a football team. I'm just trying to really maximize my spot, my role that I have in this offense, and really let that take it where it's at. Now, when you think about Aiyuk in his first couple of years, he's had to play with the revolving door of quarterbacks. Last year, primarily, it was Jimmy Garoppolo. The year before that, it was Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard. And even after missing a couple games in his rookie year and the instability at the quarterback position, Aiyuk put up big numbers. Even after being in the witness protection program the first 6 weeks last year, he put up big numbers. I think with Trey Lance's arm strength and a little bit of a change in the 49ers offense where they're going to push the ball downfield, Brandon Aiyuk is going to be the beneficiary of that, and his game is going to be maximized because of the ability of Trey Lance, and he's going to go on to have a monster season in 2022, and I'm going to make a prediction right here, right now, that Brandon Aiyuk is going to be able to surpass 1,000 yards receiving this upcoming year and be a very good bona fide threat alongside Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. If you think Aiyuk can break out, hopefully I was able to convince you, if you disagreed with me to start today's show, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If you don't think he's going to break out, comment why you don't think he is going to be a breakout candidate. Breakout candidate number 2, a guy who is in the news this week. That is Javon Kinlaw. Look, he's a former first-round pick out of South Carolina who, when you see him on the field, you're like, how does this guy not dominate games? Well, he hasn't been able to dominate games his first 2 years in the NFL because he hasn't been able to stay on the field. Lingering knee issues have caused him to miss a lot of games. And so far in 2 years, he's only been able to play 18 games total. And because of that, his production has been hit. 1.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and 5 quarterback hits. Now, in his rookie year, there were certainly some flashes of him living up to the billing of being a first-round pick, but he hasn't been able to put it all together. I think one of the reasons that he lashed out at Grant Cohn, he's feeling the pressure of needing to produce, and I think he's motivated to have a really good year. This year, because of that 5th-year option looming, going into year 3, he needs to prove his worth. And if he doesn't, I don't think he's going to be on the 49ers long, and his NFL career will come into danger. If he is able to produce, I think the 49ers might think about giving him a contract extension, and he could be a pillar in this defensive line, a defensive line that is stacked all across the board, and that's why I'm hoping Kinlaw is able to stay healthy, because if you pair him up with Chris Kocurek, I think that Kocurek is going to be able to bring the best out of him, and Kinlaw can impress a lot of people this upcoming year. On the Madden scale, I want you to go Madden style right now. Rate Javon Kinlaw as a player on a scale of 1 to 100. Let me know in the comment section, and stay tuned because we have 3 more breakout candidates to get to. First, though, one of our breakout candidates who we're about to talk about, he can do it all on the football field, And if you want to be able to do it all in the bedroom, you can do so with the Ultra Premium Collection from Manscaped, because you'll be looking good and you'll be smelling good at the same time, and your significant other will not be able to turn you down. $39.99 for all 5 products on your screen right now if you go to manscaped.com/49ers. We're talking body wash, shampoo and conditioner, body spray, deodorant, as well as chapstick. That link is available in the comment section and the description of this video right now. It's manscaped.com/49ers, the most elite and the best men's grooming product tools on the market today. Now, that was a little bit of a tease. I said we're going to get to a breakout candidate who can do it all, and that's Trey Lance. And I think it's all going to come together in year 2 in his first season as a starting quarterback. Trey Lance is a guy who I think is going to make this offense less predictable and more explosive. And there's been a lot of comps, a lot of similarities that people are making between Josh Allen and his rawness coming out of Wyoming and Trey Lance and his rawness coming out of North Dakota State. And when you think about it, similar levels of college competition. Josh Allen at Wyoming, Trey Lance at North Dakota State. Now, obviously, Josh Allen played a lot more in his rookie year as compared to Trey area, so the sample size a lot more than what Trey was able to do in a handful of snaps, including 2 starts last year. What we can look at, though, is some of the deep numbers that really do go a long way in telling the story for a quarterback. So in his rookie year, Josh Allen struggled a lot, and a lot of people were not confident that he was going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's proven to be that ever since that rookie year, and he's a year-in, year-out MVP contender. So his rookie year, he completed 169 of 320 passing attempts. That was good for a completion percentage of 53%. That's awful. League average is about 65%, 66%. Yards per attempt, 6.5. Interception percentage, 3.1. Yards per completion, a little north of 12. Trey Lance's numbers in a limited sample size, actually better than what Josh Allen did. And of course, going from year 1 to year 2, Allen tinkered with his mechanics like what Trey Lance is doing. And I think we've seen that Trey Lance's arm motion throughout OTAs is a little bit cleaner. 41 of 71 last year for Trey. Completion percentage just shy of 58%. Yards per attempt, 8.5. That's 2 yards more than Josh Allen. Interception percentage lower, which is a positive. And yards per completion, 14.7, which is good and goes to show you the big playability of this offense, which is why I also told you that I think Brandon Aiyuk is going to break out. Now, the running game this year is something that I think Kyle Shanahan is really going to focus on. And I think that's why he has a stable of running backs in this offense. Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon, Ty Davis-Price, back-to-back third-round picks, those latter 2 guys. You have Jeff Wilson and JaMychal Hasty. And I think Kyle Shanahan's thought process is, okay, Trey Lance is a little bit inexperienced, and there's going to be some bumps along the road for him as a passer. But if we can take some pressure off of him, run the football a lot, and not rely on Trey to throw the ball 35, 40 times, it will set him up for success. And I think that's actually going to allow Trey Lance to get some easy looks in the passing game off of play action. In addition to Kyle Shanahan being the head coach and legitimate weapons for Trey in Debo, Aiyuk, George Kittle, Trent Williams protecting him. Hopefully Danny Gray has a big rookie year and Jawan Jennings as that security blanket of a wide receiver. I think Trey Lance is going to break out. But what type of year does the faithful think that TL is going to have? G for great, A for average, B for bad. I gave you some options. Use that optionality to your disposal in the comment section right now. While you're down there, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're about 500 people away from 60,000 subscribers right here on the 49ers Report. I took over last year at the NFL Draft. We had 33,000 subscribers. So in 1 year, we've been able to grow insurmountably. We're going to continue to grow as the largest 49ers News and Rumors channel on YouTube. Join the faithful family, join the party, and join the movement by hitting that red subscribe button. 2 more breakout candidates to talk about. Kamoko Turay, who signed a 1-year contract with the 49ers in free agency, coming over from the Indianapolis Colts. This 49ers defensive line might be the strength of this football team this year in 2022. because all across the board, they're about 2 or 3 guys deep at every single position on the edge as well as on the interior. Now, you take a gander at what Turay did last year. It was the best year of his career. So you're getting this guy at less than $2 million coming off a career year, and he gets to play on a stacked defensive line with one of the best defenses in the NFL. 5.5 sacks last year in 13 games. 5 tackles for loss, 8 quarterback hits, and 1 forced fumble. The pedigree is certainly there. He finally broke out last year, and maybe he even has a better year. Now, if he breaks out and has 6.5 sacks, that's great. But could he have a little bit more? The ability is certainly there for Kemoko Turay to be a very good edge rusher and a bargain at that edge spot, because he only signed that 1-year deal worth less than $2 million. 2018 second-round pick out of Rutgers. In 2019, he broke his ankle, so his career got off to a slow start. From 2018 to 2020 combined, he had 6.5 sacks, and last year alone, with a really good defensive line on that Colts team, 5.5 sacks. That's why I think he's set up nicely to have a really good year for the second consecutive campaign. Now, talking about this 49ers defensive line, they're stacked, man. They're really deep. They're really talented, led by the great Nick Bosa, who Pro Football Focus said is the better player under the age of 25 than Justin Herbert. That right there, that's lofty praise. But first, fill in the blank before we get to our last breakout candidate. The 49ers have a top blank defensive line in the NFL. 32 teams in the NFL. Find your answer and let me know that answer in the comment section. Breakout candidate number 5. It's Trey Sermon. 1, because as I talked about, I think the 49ers going to run the football a lot. 2, I'm a believer in this guy's talent. In the short amount of time and the limited snaps that he got last year, I'm like, yo, Trey Sermon has some pop. Trey Sermon has some explosiveness. The production was so limited last year, but this year, playing in this offense, given the benefit of the play action and all of the other weapons on this team, and hopefully an offensive line that I have concerns about being able to open up some big holes for Trey Sermon as a one-cut runner. I think Trey Sermon is going to prove his worth, and he's going to prove people why he was drafted in the 3rd round last year. That is breakout candidate number 5. I'm expecting big things for him in 2022. So our 5 breakout candidates are all too early version with months to go until the regular season. Brandon Aiyuk, wide receiver. Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle. Trey Lance, the starting quarterback. Kemoko Turay, defensive end. Trey Sermon, the running back. Some rules that we usually use here at Chat Sports: cannot be rookies. And none of these players rookies, but a lot of them going into pivotal years here for the San Francisco 49ers. Before we hop on out of here, name your top 49ers breakout candidate for me in the comment section right now. It can be one of the players who we discussed during this exercise or a different guy on the team. And if it's somebody different, surprise me right now. Okay, almost 300 people watching live. Mark Frucci, top defensive line in all of football. They're right there, man. Haha, Eric, what did you do versus the Rams? You were a ghost. Are you talking about Eric Armstead? Because back half of the year, he was excellent. Jimmo, 43% for Debo. Talking about our poll question here, and that is our poll question. Better 49ers wide receiver, I put you to the test. Debo Samuel or Terrell Owens, 44% with Debo, 56% with T.O. Now, I think T.O., the better overall pure wide receiver. Debo, maybe the better all-around weapon. But right now, 56% of the votes going with Terrell Owens on 234 votes total. Coming up next here on the channel, we're going to be doing a 49ers mailbag where I answer all of your 49ers-related questions. 221 people watching live right now, 109 likes. Hit that thumbs up icon and like the video if you're enjoying today's show. And get your questions in right now using the hashtag 49ers. Hashtag 49ers or Super Chat us for your questions to be answered live right here on the 49ers Report. We want to get some more questions in. Mark, you're saying bye? Oh, bye to the sex bots. Yeah, let me mute the sex bots here. Removing the sex bots. Mark knows what to do. You just got to type bye to get them out of here. Jay Stoker, Jimmy Ward breakout year. I thought last year he was excellent, man, to be honest. T.O. was something special from Lil Dude. Yes, he was. Okay. So coming up next here on the channel, 49ers News and Rumors mailbag. Get your questions in using the hashtag 49ers. We're also going to be going live on Call-In right after our show here on YouTube and Rumble wraps up. What is Call-In? A live interactive podcasting app where I'm able to take all of your questions on the San Francisco 49ers. So make sure you stay tuned for that and get ahead of the game by downloading the app and creating a profile by heading to chatsports.com/49ers Call-In. You'll be able to tune in and call into the show. Are we ready to start this mailbag? Awesome. Let's start this mailbag coming up next right here on the 49ers Report Live. Coming up on the 49ers Report, a News and Rumors mailbag is part of our live show, in which we go live every single Tuesday, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. One of my favorite segments of the week because I'm able to take all of your questions on the 49ers. And at the end of the day, this is why you subscribe to the channel. In addition to great and elite audience interaction where we answer your questions, we're pushing out free daily videos, 100% free content covering the latest news, rumors, watch parties during the year. Last year, they were certainly a hit. Our draft and free agency coverage, absolutely insane. Live shows, audience interaction. So make sure you hit that red subscribe button. Join the faithful family here at Chat Sports as we close in on 60,000 subscribers. We kick off this mailbag with this question coming in from Chua. Should the 49ers sign Colin Kaepernick as a backup for Trey Lance? So, obviously, Colin Kaepernick is in the news because he worked out for the Las Vegas Raiders. That is his first workout with an NFL team in several years, and according to all accounts, he looked really good. The Raiders were impressed with his arm strength. They were impressed with his athleticism, and they might be moving in a direction in which they sign Colin Kaepernick. Now, keep in mind, we're recording this on Thursday. Even though I said we usually go live on Tuesday, which is what we usually do, but I was coming off of vacation, and Colin Kaepernick has not signed yet. We might be in a scenario in which Colin Kaepernick does sign with the Las Vegas Raiders. I think he deserves an opportunity as a backup. I don't think he's a starter in this league. I think that if he were to be a long-term starter, some of his flaws as a passer and his failures to go through progressions and break down defenses and counter some of the adjustments that are made would be a little bit of an issue for him as a starter. But as a backup, I think he's athletic enough and has that dual threat ability to win a game in a pinch if a starter does go down for a week or two. Matt, what are some of the cons, in your opinion, of running Trey Lance starting game one? I don't think there are any cons at all. I think, if anything, Trey Lance needs to learn the ropes of being a starting quarterback. He needs to go through some of the growing pains that young quarterbacks do go through. And I'm confident that he's going to be able to have a successful year after he's able to get through some of those early struggles. You think about previous quarterbacks who have had breakout years in year two. Patrick Mahomes started one game as a rookie. He comes in year two and wins the NFL MVP. Why can't Trey Lance do that? In fact, more money has been put on Trey Lance to win NFL MVP than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen combined. Now, part of that is the really good value. Joe Burrow, year two, coming off a bad knee injury. He led the Cincinnati Bengals to a Super Bowl, and I don't think the Bengals had as good of a roster as the 49ers do. I think the pressure is going to be off of Trey Lance because he has Kyle Shanahan as his coach, who's one of the best young coaches in the NFL. He has a really good complementary cast. The defense has the ability to be one of the best in the NFL. I don't think there are any cons of starting him week one. In fact, I think the smart move is to start him game one. Therefore, in the middle part of the year when that schedule gets really tough, toward the end when you're trying to make a playoff push, hopefully he's overcome some of those struggles that come with being an inexperienced quarterback. Speaking of 2022 and having Trey Lance as the presumed starter, what will the 49ers record be in 2022? I want to hear from all of you in the comment section, and keep in mind that you have to do the simple math, 17-game schedule once again. We move forward in this mailbag with this one coming in from James Kramer. Do we go get J.C. Treader now? If not, who plays center? Alex Mack has not made a decision up to this point as to whether or not he's going to return for another year in the NFL. The 7-time Pro Bowler and member of the 2010 all-decade team has not made a decision. And that's a big looming question for this 49ers roster. He was really good last year. You have a young, inexperienced quarterback, as we've talked about. It's imperative to get that center position right and to have stability and protection there, because if the middle of your line is getting blown up week in, week out, Trey Lance is going to get injured. Then you run the risk of him losing his confidence if he continues to get beaten and battered back there. Now, if you lose Alex Mack to retirement, is J.C. Tretter a solid option? For sure. Because other than that, you're looking at Jake Brendel and you're looking at Donovan West or Jason Poe, and I don't think you want to move forward with those inexperienced UDFAs as your starting center, and I'm not sure if Jake Brendel can hold up over the course of a 17-game schedule. So J.C. Tretter would be a viable option. He's dealt with some injuries the last couple of years, but from an overall playmaking standpoint, as a center, as a scheme fit, and a guy who can get out in space on some of those pull blocks, he would be a solid option. Julian, with this next question, we have a good schedule. We should have several breakouts. Yeah, my 5 breakout candidates for this year, it's Javon Kinlaw, Brandon Aiyuk, Trey Lance, Trey Sermon, and I think Kamoko Turay is another player who's going to be able to break out in 2022. All for obvious different reasons. If you're watching this mailbag during the weekend, we already pushed out that video of my top 5 breakout candidates and all my reasonings for why I think they can be very good players this upcoming year. Zoe81, do you think Jason Verrett, if healthy, makes the 53-man roster? I do, because you don't want to be in a scenario in which you have to go to the scrap heap and you have to sign a Josh Norman or a Drake Kirkpatrick. I mean, those moves reeked of desperation last year, because after Jason Verrett got injured in week 1, you were screwed at that cornerback spot because you didn't have any depth. This year, the 49ers do have depth, and I think Jason Verrett is going to be a part of it. Now, I think the starting corners are going to be Charvarius Ward, Ambry Thomas, and Emmanuel Mosley. Your depth pieces, Jason Verrett, Deommodore Lenoir, and Samuel Womack, who you drafted in the draft this year. Those 6 corners are better than the cornerback group that you had last year, and that's a great position to be in going into 2022. If you're watching this video, I imagine that you love the San Francisco 49ers. If you're not a 49ers fan, maybe you're watching because you just love me. But I don't care about that. If you love the 49ers, I want you to type SF in the comment section for San Francisco and show me that you're red and gold till you're dead and cold. Today's show presented to you by the fine people at Rumble. We continue to grow to the platforms that you use. We're approaching 60,000 subs on YouTube. We go live every single week for live podcasts on Callin, and we're growing our platform there. We also have some work to do, though, with growing our platform on Rumble. Faithful to the Bay, the 49ers are, the Raiders are not, but this is still a really good rivalry and will be a game on the 49ers schedule. But look at how much the Raiders report is kicking our ass with Rumble followers. 1,700 to 435. You got to go to rumble.com/49erstv, and when you're there, hit that green follow button. We have some work to do to catch up to the Raiders. I won't stand for getting dominated like that. Moose Cal, Debo contract. Nothing new on that front. I do think that something is going to get done. And I take stock in what a guy like Fred Warner said when he expects a contract to get resolved. Why? Because Fred Warner is a captain of this team. He wears the C on his chest. And here at Chat Sports, and for a lot of you out there, you probably have group chats at your respective companies, right? And you talk about some of the inner workings and some of the drama and some of the funny things that happen inside the workplace. I'm sure that professional athletes are the same thing as well, where people are talking on this 49ers roster, and Fred Warner and Debo have probably talked. And for Fred Warner to say, yeah, I think Debo's going to come back. I think he's going to get that contract. I put stock in that because he has a pulse of this football team. So nothing new on that front other than Ian Rappaport saying this week that he thinks that a deal is going to get done between the Niners and Debo Samuel. Lil Dude LOL wow. He's coming in with this. I honestly believe that Lynch and Shanahan have no faith in Trey, hence the reason why Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the roster. I disagree with you because of what I've been saying and what the 49ers have been saying. Ideally, they wanted to trade away Jimmy Garoppolo right after the year, but a couple of things happened. He didn't consult them and tell them that he was undergoing shoulder surgery. Weird. He underwent shoulder surgery, which impacted his trade value because other teams don't want to trade for a quarterback who can't throw until July, especially a guy who's set to make a little less than $27 million on that cap hit. And that stalled everything in addition to the quarterback movement. Trey Lance, I think he's the face. He's getting all the reps in OTAs. I think he's going to benefit from it. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have talked about him being the guy and the fact that he is ready, and I think he is. I just think he needs to go through a lot of offseason training and get all of the reps so that he can fine-tune all of those little wrinkles in his game right now. Kyle Shanahan, we were just talking about him, so this serves well. He is a top blank coach in the National Football League. Where do you think he ranks among all coaches in the NFL? I think he's top 10 for sure. If you disagree with me, let me know. If you agree with me, let me know. $5 super chat coming in from the real OG. It's Noah GQ Pena. Sup, Chase? The 49ers need catch for this year. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Sup, Chase? The 49ers need catch for this year. They need to catch this year, meaning they can't drop as many footballs, if that's what you mean. I agree. Debo dropped some footballs last year for sure, but either way, my guy, appreciate the super chat, appreciate the $5. It goes a long way. All of your donations do, and greatly appreciate all the support that everybody gives us. John, thoughts on Lance going to tight end U? It's cool. It doesn't really do much for me. Him working out in California with some renowned quarterback experts, I think that is really important. He's been working with some really good quarterbacks coaches who have raved about him, his work ethic, and some of the improvements that he's been able to make. So him going to tight end U, yeah, he gets to have more reps with George Kittle. That's cool. He gets to throw with some other really good tight ends in the NFL. Some really good quarterbacks do attend that camp on a yearly basis, so it's never a bad thing to learn the ropes from some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and that's what I like about Trey. I like his skill set, the arm strength, the size, the athleticism, the speed, the running ability, the throwing ability. I also really enjoy and admire the fact that he wants it, that he wants to get better, and his mentality to be great. Not everybody's built like that. I am in the media sphere. Trey Lance is built like that. On the football field, some people have it, some people don't. Before we get out of here on this mailbag, make sure you hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. I tweet out all of the latest 49ers news and rumors, 49ers updates when they become available. All of our content can be found on my social media pages as well, and you get to interact with me, especially if I didn't answer your questions during this mailbag. So hit me up, give me a follow at Chase_Senior. Okay, we're going to be going live on call-in here in just a few moments. I am actually going to start the room on call-in, and I want to see how many people hop over and join us. So give me a second as I go live here on call-in, and we'll do a little bit of a build-up phase before we start the official show on call-in. In the meantime, I'll be able to give all of you shout-outs who join us. We are officially live on the call-in app. You're listening to the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. I appreciate all of you for tuning in to today's show. Now, we are live on call-in, and we're still live on YouTube as well as Rumble. Shortly, we're going to end our live stream on YouTube and go live exclusively on call-in, but the link to join us on the show is available right now in the description of this video. I'll also put that link in the comment section too so that everybody is able to join us. It is a live interactive podcast where I have the opportunity to answer all of your 49ers related questions, calls, and hot takes. Make sure you join us by using that link because I'm live in call-in right now, and I will take the first call here on call-in, live on YouTube. Then I'm going to go live exclusively on call-in to list out 3 UDFAs who I think are going to make the 49ers 53-man roster. And then after that, I will take all of your calls exclusively on Call-In. So we're live on Call-In. We're live on YouTube doing a little build-up phase here on the Call-In app. It's like Twitter Spaces, but even better. And I want to hear from all of you throughout the show. Exclusively live on Call-In in just a few moments, I'll be listing out 3 UDFAs who I think have a realistic chance of making the 49ers roster. In the meantime, though, I want to take a call here on YouTube so that people can see what the Call-In app is all about. So I'm seeing Ruben and 6 other listeners right now on Call-In. Hop into the caller queue, and as soon as I take one caller here on Call-In to kick off the show, we'll take that call on YouTube, and then we'll go live exclusively on the Call-In app. So hop into the caller queue for those of you listening right now, for those of you watching on YouTube. Appreciate you guys for making today's show a part of your day. But we're going to pivot off of YouTube here in just a little while, and then I will go live exclusively on Call-In. So I see James is in the caller queue. I'm going to make him the next caller. You're live on the 49ers Report on Call-In as well as YouTube. What do you got, James? Make sure you unmute yourself if you can. Okay. Having some audio problems. Wait, say that again? Okay. So we're live on YouTube. We're live on Call-In. People continue to pile in to the Call-In app here. Going to take a call from Brian. You are live on YouTube as well as Call-In. Tell everybody why you enjoy Call-In, Brian, and then ask away with whatever you got.
Hey, buddy, I'm getting like a bad echo on my side, so I'll take off my headset. But so, you know me, I love going down the weeds into the more, I don't know, odd conversations with this. One thing I was looking at when I was looking at the 49ers salary cap right now, with them keeping Jimmy on, really, I don't even see how we're going to be able to sign all these players other than the speculation that if Alex Mack retires, that does free up enough to sign most of them. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so which players are you specifically talking about signing?
Our draft picks.
Okay, yeah. So obviously some money does need to get freed up to sign some of these young players on the roster. Coop, I was hearing an echo. I don't think I am any longer, so just mute that if you can. So the 49ers right now, Brian, to answer your question, they have the second least cap space in the NFL, as we've talked about before here on the show. And if you were to cut Jimmy Garoppolo outright, if you were to trade him away, that would free up a little less than $27 million on your salary cap. And obviously, that would free up money to sign all of your draft picks, maybe even make another splash in free agency, and sign some of the rookies on this roster as well. So that is the big looming predicament that the 49ers are in right now. And there's no question about that's looming over this franchise right now. And I think that they planned for it in a certain way, but they didn't expect Jimmy Garoppolo to be on this roster at this point, and that's why they were somewhat inactive throughout free agency. I also don't think that they needed to make a bunch of crazy moves throughout free agency because they knew, okay, we made it to the Final Four, we made it to the NFC Championship game, we're a couple plays away from making it to our second Super Bowl over the span of 3 years. Like, we're in a pretty good spot, but there's no question, in my opinion, they could have done a little bit more if they had a little bit more money, because right now their team cap space, $673,000, which isn't a lot of money at all. And even if you were to let go of Alex Mack, that's not freeing up a lot of money either. So yes, the big looming question throughout this offseason, what are the Niners doing with Jimmy Garoppolo? The other looming question, what do you do with all of the money if Garoppolo is no longer on this roster? He still is. So it's somewhat of a fascinating predicament that the 49ers are in right now.
Yeah, and I think that's my point is if we end up keeping Jimmy Garoppolo like they're saying until closer to the end of the beginning of the year, that's my concern is where are they going to come up with this if we keep pushing out this Jimmy decision, whether to cut him, because the trade's not coming right now. So, I mean, looking at the salary cap, if Mac does retire, He would carry about a $2.45 million cap hit, so it should free up roughly just over $4 million. And then doing the June 1st designation of getting rid of D Ford, I think that frees up about 1.5. So with those two moves, that would give us enough to sign our draft picks. But is that what their backup plan is if they really are going to keep Jimmy?
Yeah, and also keep in mind that you mentioned the D Ford restructure, which is actually what I was going to talk about. That is important to talk about. Alex Mack, but there's a couple of contract restructures that could also take place that could free up some more money. Eric Armstead, if you want to restructure that again, it is fiscally possible. Jimmy Ward contract extension, and you're able to maybe backload that contract, that frees up some money as well. So there are ways and avenues in which the 49ers can free up some money through contract restructures. Now, we're about to sign off here on YouTube, and we're going to go live exclusively on Call-In. So for the 200-plus people watching live here on YouTube, join us on Call-In. You see that link at the bottom of your screen. I also see a couple people in the caller queue right now. I'm going to take some calls here in a few moments, but to start our live show on Call-In officially, I'm going to run through some UDFAs who have an opportunity to make this 49ers roster, and that's how we're going to start the show. And then after I talk about some of those UDFAs, and even throughout the process of talking about some of those UDFAs, I'll be taking your calls as well. So we're going to sign off of YouTube right now. Thanks to everybody for watching us on YouTube as well as Rumble, and we're going live exclusively on Call-In. You can join us by plugging in that link down